Chapter 283, Forsaken 1. Screech. Pressing on the brakes of the car stopped and a familiar building appeared in the distance. All right, we're here. Twisting the keys of the car, Small Snake hopped off the car. Whom. Yawning out loud and stretching my arms, I opened the door of the car and got off as well. Then, turning my head, I looked towards the familiar building in the distance. It's been a while. I muttered underneath my breath. 8 months. Perhaps it was even longer, but I couldn't remember anymore. All of my recent memories have made everything around me feel unfamiliar. It was an odd sensation. Similar to when I had just reincarnated into this world. Follow me, a lot of things have changed since you left. Changed? Twirling the car keys on his index finger, Small Snake locked the car and made his way towards the warehouse in the distance. Rather than telling you, it's better if I show you. Okay. Following Small Snake from behind, we soon arrived before the entrance of the warehouse. Stopping before the entrance, turning my head towards Small Snake, I asked. By the way, how are the others doing? Been a while since I last saw them. Did they improve whilst I was gone? Unlocking the doors of the warehouse, Small Snake casually replied. Everyone is doing fine. Not much really happened during your absence. That so, then did you manage to recruit her? Halting mid-key turn, Small Snake raised his brow and looked at me. Are you referring to the one you told me to recruit before abruptly disappearing? Awkwardly scratching my nose, I replied.
Yeah.
If you're talking about that Ava girl, she's agreed to join. Really? A surprised look appeared on my face. Last I remembered, during the tournament, she contacted me regarding my previous offer. From there I put her in contact with Small Snake. Who would have thought that she had agreed to join despite my absence? Is she in? I asked whilst pointing at the warehouse. In turn, Small Snake shook his head and unlocked the door. No, she's at the lock. Right. I forgot about that. She was still a student, so she couldn't technically be here full time. Just like me before. All right, follow me in. You do know that I've been here before, right? Rolling my eyes, I followed Small Snake in. Entering the warehouse with Small Snake, once we walked past the entrance of the warehouse, arriving before a certain room, I spotted a woman with 2 horns on her head sitting crossed-legged in the middle of the room. Angelica. I could feel powerful demonic energy emanating from her body. The aura on her body was much stronger compared to when I had last seen her. I suspected that she had broken through to rank. She was now a full-fledged Viscount-ranked demon. Staring at her, I walked up to her. Angelica suddenly opened her mouth. You're here, human. Took you a while. Things happened. I shrugged. Then, looking at her, I asked. You've been doing well, I presume? Along with a casual nod, the demonic energy that was lingering in the air shrunk rapidly and entered her body. Standing up, she scanned me from top to bottom. What happened to your face? She questioned with an odd look on her face. Always straight to the point. At her question, a helpless sigh escaped from my mouth. Before even greeting me properly, she already jumped straight to what happened to my face. Talk about straightforward. Well. This energy? However, right as I was about to respond, her brows suddenly knit. Lifting her head, a shocked expression appeared on her face. Your rank. Finally noticed? A smile appeared on my face. Was hoping she'd notice. Since I wasn't suppressing my rank, it was easy for her to tell that my rank was currently at borderline. You are one interesting human. Come again? What kind of statement was that? Throughout my life, I have seen many humans, I've even contracted with some. Pausing, a meaningful glare appeared on her face. Turning my head, I scratched the side of my nose. Almost forgot about the fact that I had killed one of the people she had contracted with. And out of all the humans that I had seen, you're the first one that has truly shocked me. Your talent is quite frightening. That's so. Being complimented by Angelica, I rubbed my nose slightly. Glad she knows. Ren. Small Snake called out from behind. Turning my head, I found a middle-aged man standing next to him. I was able to instantly recognize him. Leopold. With his hand on his chin, Leopold's brows knit. Is there something wrong? I asked in confusion. Suddenly, raising his thumb up, Leopold repeatedly nodded his head. Boss, I like your makeover. Very badass. My mouth twitched. Oh God. Standing by next to him, Small Snake covered his face. From how unsurprised he was, it looked as though he had somewhat expected this. I'm digging the scar and that bald look. Very nice. Thanks. I replied with a forced laugh. From how serious his face was, I wondered if he was joking or being serious. Was slowly starting to regret my decision in bringing him in. By the way, Small Snake, where is Ryan? So far there were Small Snake, Angelica, and Leopold in the room. There should still be Ryan. Ryan? At the mention of Ryan's name, Small Snake's eyelids twitched slightly. This did not go unnoticed to me as my eyes squinted. Is he not here? No, he's here, it's just that. Just that? Scratching the side of his neck, a helpless expression appeared on Small Snake's face. Then, he suddenly sighed before turning around. Rather than telling you, it's better if you look for yourself. Follow me. Okay? Though I found the situation odd, I decided to follow Small Snake from behind. Walking through the warehouse, we soon stopped in front of another room. Halting his steps in front of the room, Small Snake put his hand on the doorknob and twisted it lightly. What the? Upon twisting the knob and opening the door, the first thing I saw was an endless amount of monitors attached to the side of the wall. Below them was a massive black wooden desk. This isn't it, no, not this one, nope. Sitting on a large leather chair that was twice his size, was Ryan, whose eyes darted all over the monitors like a maniac. Entering the room, Small Snake had an annoyed look on his face as he walked up to Ryan and removed the headset that was resting on his head. Maybe this one could, Ryan, how many times do I have to tell you that you to take a break? Your eyes need to rest. Small Snake reprimanded. Small Snake, what are you doing here? Can't I be here? No, you can. A horrified look appeared on Ryan's face as he replied to Small Snake. You see, I was in the middle of something. What does that matter? You want me to tell your mother about how much time you're spending on the computer? No, that. Anything but that. Looking at the duo, an amused smile appeared on my face as I thought. Looks like Small Snake has fully adapted to his babysitter role. Ever since returning to this place, Small Snake's role as a babysitter became more and more apparent to me. From how he redecorated the whole facility, to how he handled Leopold. Small Snake truly became a dependable person. Push off, Small Snake, it's okay, leave Ryan alone. For a second, my tongue almost slipped. Boss. Turning his head, and spotting me, Ryan called out in excitement as he rushed towards me. An odd look appeared on my face. Pointing at myself, I asked. Do you recognize me? Of course I do. Ryan replied without any hesitation, causing me to be even more confused. But didn't you see me only once before? That's right. So how were you able to identify me? I curiously asked. Other than the time I rescued him from his mom, this was the second time I was meeting him. For him to have been able to recognize me this quickly despite the current state of my face, I was quite perplexed. Blinking his eyes a couple of times, Ryan innocently tilted his head. Then, opening his mouth, he started speaking extremely fast. The color of your eyes, your physique, your voice, and the fact that small snake brought you here. With his personality, there's no way he'd bring a stranger here. If you add all those factors together, it wouldn't be strange for me to come up with such a conclusion. Oh, and what happened to your face? I see. Taken aback by how fast he was speaking, I nodded my head slightly. Either way, I pretty much got the gist of what he was saying. If he put it like that, then it made sense. Well, not that anyone else could have done it, since they wouldn't have been able to memorize so many things at once. Ryan was the only exception. Once he finished speaking, Ryan's innocent eyes looked towards me as he asked. So what brings you here, boss? Are you here to just greet me? Right, thanks for reminding me. Moving towards a gray sofa by the side of the room, I sat down. Propping my elbow on the armrest of the sofa, and resting my cheek on my arm, I opened my mouth. Ryan, I need your help with something. My help? It's a pretty big task, and even if you can't do it, I won't hold it against you. What I was about to ask of him was going to be a difficult task. With him only being 13 years old, there was a chance that his skills weren't developed enough to help me. Patting his chest, Ryan confidently exclaimed. Don't worry, boss, I'll make sure to complete it. Listening to Ryan's words, a gratified smile appeared on my face. Then, pointing towards my head, I looked at Ryan and said, I want you to hack the chip that is stuck inside of my head. Who? A chip? Listening to the side, a confused look appeared on Small Snake's face. Ren, what are you talking about? Lightly glancing at Small Snake, I casually shrugged my shoulders before giving them a brief recount of what had happened in the monolith. Although I omitted a few things, I pretty much told them about the experiments and how a chip was installed inside of my brain. Such thing happened. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Listening to the story, Small Snake's face became gloomy. The monolith wasn't just a sensitive topic for me. It was also one for Small Snake, who was also forced to be a fugitive because of them. Clenching his fists, Small Snake lowered his head. I'm sorry, even though you spent so much money on us, we were completely useless when you were suffering so much. It's okay. Seeing the state Small Snake was in, the edges of my lips curved upwards. Patting my body, I reassured. I'm free, aren't I? Isn't that all that matters? The past is the past, now let's focus on the future and make it so a similar situation never happens again, okay? Okay. Good. After consoling Small Snake, I turned my head towards Ryan's direction. So, Ryan? About the thing that I just asked, can you do it? Sitting back on his chair, Ryan's brows were tightly furrowed together. After a while, looking back at me, he nodded his head. I can try. A smile appeared on my face. That's all I'm asking for. At the moment, Ryan was the best bet I had for helping me with the chip problem. Having destroyed a major part of the monolith, I wasn't necessarily worried about them getting the chip tracking device functioning fast, but it was better to get it solved as soon as possible, given the fact that by now I should be one of the most wanted people by them. Okay, let me see what I can do. Twisting the chair around, Ryan's finger danced all over the keyboard, as the sound of keys being clicked rang out in the room. Ta dot ta dot ta. Frowning, Ryan's eyes darted all over the monitor screens in front of him. Staring at the codes in front of him, Ryan started asking questions. So, boss, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to directly disable the chip? I patiently responded to all of his questions. No, I want you to disable the tracking function. The chip was quite useful to me. If possible, I didn't want to disable it. Apart from the improvement in my analytical abilities, the chip also helped me during fights. For it to be disabled, I felt that it was a waste. So you just want me to disable the tracking function? Okay, that doesn't sound too hard. Ta dot ta dot ta. Plucking his lips together, Ryan's fingers moved across the keyboard at lightning-fast speeds. Many different codes and numbers appeared in the monitors in front of him as Ryan's brows progressively knit with every passing minute. This continued for 10 more minutes before he suddenly let out a strange sound. What's going on? You found something? Sitting up straight, I worriedly asked. Hold on. Ryan's eyes darted all over the monitor screens. Scratching the side of his head, Ryan repeatedly tilted his head from left to right, as the frown on his face deepened. After a while, Ryan bit his lips. Turning his head, he looked towards me and apologized. I'm sorry, but it looks like I can't do it. My heart sank. What's wrong? Why can't you do it? Instead of answering me, Ryan asked a question. Boss, you know how GPS trackers work, right? GPS trackers?
Yeah.
Do you? Pondering, I carefully replied. Sort of. From what I remember, GPS trackers use multiple satellites to determine the location of the device connected to it, or something along those lines. Sounds about right. So what's the problem? I wondered. Looking up at the ceiling, Ryan thought for a bit before replying. The problem is that the chip inside of your head is not connected to any satellite. Not connected to any satellite? Then how does it track me? A brief moment of silence ensued. Tapping on the table, Ryan once again looked at the monitors in front of him, before replying. I'm not entirely sure. But from what I've gathered through entering the database of the chip, there seems to be a special artifact installed? Material? Crystal? Can't really tell. Either way, somehow, thanks to that, they are able to track you. Then, what do I do? Can I disable the chip in my head? Ryan shook his head. Unfortunately, that is also not possible. What? Why? That's because the chip in your head has a self-destruction function. If you try to remove it, or I directly hack it, it'll automatically detonate. Listening to Ryan speak, my mind blanked. If I couldn't remove the chip that I was inside of my head, then what was I supposed to do? Let the monolith hunt me down? Just as I was despairing over my situation, Ryan once again called out for me. Boss, actually, not all hope is lost. Lifting my head, I asked. What do you mean? Well, you see, the only reason why I can't help you right now is because my skills are inadequate. If you give me time, I can do it. Time? How much time do you need? From 1 month to a couple of years. I don't know. Is that so? That was so too long. By the time he was skilled enough, I would have long been killed by the monolith. Then what do I? Wait, what's going on? Cutting me off was Ryan, who suddenly turned around and looked towards his monitors. What happened? I asked in confusion. Look. Nudging me with his head, Ryan pointed towards his monitors. Looking up, I saw that half of them had the same channel turned on. An emergency broadcast? Looks like it. Ryan turned the volume up. Breaking news, we're coming at you live with an emergency broadcast that will be shared throughout every television screen in the human domain. We're here to relay to you an important piece of information. Suddenly the screen split in half. On one side was the hostess and on the other were multiple images of an individual with a face riddled with scars. What the? Staring at the image on the screen, my body froze and my pupils shrank. Ryan, who was next to me, opened his mouth widely. A bounty of over 10 billion U has been set on this person. Said person is extremely dangerous and has been deemed by the Union as the #1 most wanted person in the human domain. If anyone finds out information regarding the said individual, please contact XXXXXXXXXX. Crack. Unbeknownst to me, the armrest of the sofa next to me broke apart. I was clenching my fists so tightly that blood started seeping down towards the ground. Dully staring at the monitor screen for a couple of seconds, my body started to tremble. Hey, Ren, are you okay? Approaching me was Small Snake. He too had seen the news as he was in the same room throughout the whole discussion I had with Ryan. KH. Lifting my head up, I suddenly flew into a fit of mad laughter. I see, so this is how you want to repay me, I see. Though I was laughing, an unimaginable amount of rage was masked inside of that laugh. Small Snake and Ryan, who were next to me, visibly shivered at the sound of my laugh. But I didn't care. That was because the Union had just sold me out. Chapter 284, Forsaken, 2. Union Headquarters, 120th floor. Inside a dimly lit room, 5 of the 7 heads of the Union sat on a large round table. Being some of the most powerful people in the human domain, they were individuals whose decisions could decide the lives of millions. As a result, multiple oppressive auras enveloped the room. Anyone below rank would simply faint under this pressure. I presume you all know why we're meeting, right? A tall, robust man with dirt blonde hair spoke up. Just his casual words caused the air around him to crackle as thin lightning bolts revolved around his body. He was Maximus von Dexteroy, 3rd in the hero ranking, and one of the 7 heads of the Union. It'd be strange if we didn't. Especially after that rat's betrayal. A snake-eyed person replied. He was 7th in the hero ranking, Caesar Killiner. An extremely famous hero that was renowned for his dagger techniques that could mutilate opponents with a single look. Who would have thought that Tassus was a traitor? I guess looks can be deceiving. 2 melodious voices rang inside of the room. The voices belonged to Julia Romantica and Daphne Lawrence, respectively 2nd and 9th in the hero rankings. Adorned in jewelry and piercings, Daphne was a black woman. As one would expect, she had a wild beauty to her that would make any man grovel at her feet. On the other hand, sitting next to her was Julia, who in contrast to her was tall, slim white beauty with white hair and blue eyes. Most frightening about her was her power, as she was only 1 rank behind the #1 spot. Quiet, the meeting is about to start. A soft voice suddenly enveloped the whole room. The moment the voice spoke, everyone subconsciously stopped speaking. That was because the person who had just spoken was the #1 ranked hero in the human domain, the Sovereign, Octavius Hall. The most powerful human in existence. With brown hair and languid eyes that seemed to be devoid of any emotion, an aura of oppression and destruction exuded from his body, completely suppressing the other auras in the room. The power radiating from his body was so strong that with every breath he took, tangible mana appeared in the air. Closing his eyes, Octavius suddenly waved his hand. Let's begin. The moment he waved his hand, the space in front of him tore apart and a small black void appeared out of thin air. Thank you for having me. An ethereal voice suddenly rang inside of the room. Not long after, a silhouette stepped out of the void. With ruby-red eyes that glistened underneath the lights of the room, long cascading black hair, and fair skin, a male figure leisurely walked out of the portal. Stepping out of the void, the man casually looked around and bowed his head slightly. "Been a while since I last saw you, heads." Indifferently staring at the man who had just entered the room, Octavius's mouth opened. Malik al-Shayatin. In the flesh. Also known as the King of Demons in Arabic, and the head of the monolith. Not much was known about him, but what everyone in the room could feel from the faint undulations of magic resonating from his body was that his power was on par with Octavius, if not even stronger. The room instantly became tense. "It seems like everyone is here." Taking a seat all the way over on the other side of the table, Malik al-Shayatin propped both of his elbows on the table before supporting his chin with his hands that were interlocked together. "I'm sure you heads know why I asked to meet, right? You wish to stop the war?" Maximus coldly spoke from the side. "Correct." This was the perfect opportunity for them to get rid of him. With a face devoid of any emotions, Octavius responded. "That's not his real body." "You could tell?" A surprised look appeared on Malik al-Shayatin's face. "And here I thought that I had fooled everyone." A trace of pity flashed Malik al-Shayatin's eyes. "Cut the nonsense, tell us what you want." Caesar cut in. "I don't have much time to waste on your games." At Caesar's words, Malik al-Shayatin smiled. He then raised his finger. "I only demand one thing." Pausing, Malik al-Shayatin casually looked at everyone in the room, before continuing. "To be more precise, I want one person." "A person?" Waving his hand in the air, black flames appeared on the tip of Malik al-Shayatin's fingers. Thereafter, the image of an individual riddled with scars formed in the middle of the flames. Turning his head and looking at the image, Malik al-Shayatin spoke. I want him." Subject 876. Staring at the picture, Daphne muttered out loud. "Burned face and scars, that seems to fit the descriptions of the person that saved Amon, Monica, and the others." Having read the reports that came from the survivors of the secret operation, everybody knew that the person that Malik al-Shayatin wanted was the same person that had rescued Monica, Amon, and the others. As a result of this, everybody frowned. Not minding the reaction of the others, Malik al-Shayatin continued. "That is correct. Give him to us, and I promise you a truce with the Union. We can sign a contract if you don't believe me." "Well, that is as long as you agree to my terms." "A truce?" Octavius's voice rang out. Following his voice, everyone looked at Malik al-Shayatin to make sure that they didn't hear wrongly. Being stared at by 5 of the strongest people in the human domain, Malik al-Shayatin's face remained serene. You did not hear wrong." Following his words, a look of understanding suddenly appeared on the faces of the people inside of the room. The truce was the real reason behind the meeting. 876 was merely an excuse used to propose the truce. With the Union losing 2 of their heads, including Monica due to injury, and the monolith suffering similar large losses with both Imogenhau and Tassus heavily injured from the explosion, the 2 organizations at the moment couldn't afford to go to war. This was especially so given the fact that they both lost multiple ranked heroes. If the war continued, then both organizations would be at risk of completely crumbling down. Simply put, neither party could afford that. "So, what do you think about my offer?" The real intent behind the meeting was to buy enough time for both organizations to recuperate. At least a major part of it was that, however, Malik al-Shayatin wasn't lying when he said he wanted 876. After all, he was the person responsible for injuring his vice leader, as well as Tassus. This was also excluding the many high-leveled individuals that were a part of the monolith. Just one person alone had weakened the monolith so much that they were forced to call out for a truce. Though Malik al-Shaitan was smiling, the rage contained within that smile could vividly be felt by everyone in the room as the air around him thickened up considerably every time he mentioned 876. I'll tell you what, I'll make this offer even juicier. From what I've heard, you guys seem to be close to developing portals but can't quite get there yet, right? Right. Julia cautiously responded. Although they had made a breakthrough in portal technology over recent years, they had still not quite perfected it yet. At least not for commercial use. Good, how about this, I'll do you one better, in exchange for revealing what you are missing, as well as proposing the truce, I want you guys to help us find 876. How about it? Not a bad deal, right? This was merely a customary proposal. Everyone in the room here knew that humanity was close to developing portals. At most a year or two, and they would achieve it. The only reason Malik al-Shaitan proposed such a deal was so that it made it seem as though both parties were on equal footing. He knew just how prideful the people before him were. At his proposal, deathly silence enveloped the room as no one spoke a word. The silence continued for a while before Octavius finally opened his mouth. Let me discuss it with the other heads. Go ahead. Waving his hand in the air, a black barrier formed around the 5 heads of the union, completely enveloping them whole. This was a sound barrier that was made to prevent anyone from overhearing their discussion. Once the barrier completely enveloped them, the first one to speak was Maximus. We should take the deal. What? Why? Daphne stood and protested. I've been thinking this for a while, but this offer is ridiculous. Did you guys forget that if not for him both Amon and Monica would have died? For the others to think about sacrificing someone who single-handedly dealt so much damage to the monolith as well as saved the backbone of the Union, Daphne couldn't understand why they were even thinking about going through with the deal. Coldly looking at Daphne, Maximus spoke up. Daphne, let me ask you. What are we supposed to do in our job? Our job? It's to keep as many people as possible safe. Daphne quickly responded without any hesitation. Maximus nodded at her answer. Correct, our priority is the lives of the citizens. If the war continues, a lot of lives will be lost. So you're implying that we sacrifice the person that saved our members for the sake of stopping the war between us and the monolith? Correct. But Maximus has a point. Julia chimed in with a complex look on her face. She too was uncomfortable with this decision, but at the end of the day, if this was the price to pay in order to stop the war, she was willing to go through with it. What, you too? A shocked look appeared on Daphne's face. Casually looking at Daphne who was beside her, Julia sighed. Daphne, like Maximus said, our job is to save as many people as possible. Sacrifices will be made in the process, and you should know better than anyone since you are one of the 7 heads. Julia's words hit Daphne like a thunderclap. Every word that she said was right. Daphne knew that, yet she still couldn't come to terms with the decision. But, still. I feel that what we're doing is wrong. Daphne. Octavius finally spoke up. With every word he spoke, the barrier around them would tremble slightly. You are one of the heads of the Union. Sympathy and those types of emotions are unnecessary. Our priority is the well-beings of humanity. Although I acknowledge the fact that 876 has made great contributions to the Union, from what the report stated, his power is meaningless, around rank range. Saving him would do no good for us, just think of him as a sacrifice for the greater good of humanity. Listening to Octavius's words, Daphne bit her lips. Although she wanted to refute, she knew that in the end, the decision was not up to her. Furthermore, every word that Octavius held some truth to it. At the end of the day, they were individuals who needed to make sacrifices for the sake of humanity. Emotions such as sympathy and the likes were unnecessary for individuals like them. What they needed to think about was the best course of action to take for the sake of the Union and humanity. Everything else was secondary. All right, let's vote now. Those in favor of the proposal, raise your hands. Kaisa headquarters. Damn it, what should we do now? Pacing around the room, Small Snake was in a state of panic. Calm down, Small Snake, let me think. Seated on the sofa, I tried to calm Small Snake down. Forcefully quelling my rage down, I tried my best to remain calm. There was no point panicking now. Wouldn't do me any good. Rather, it was better to think about my next course of action with a calm mind. After a while, turning my head towards Ryan, I asked. Ryan, let me ask you something. Do you perhaps have a way to tell if the tracker is functioning or not inside of my head? Are you asking whether I can tell when the tracking function is back on or not? Yes, exactly that. MHHH, give me a second. Swinging the chair around, Ryan's fingers once again danced on the keyboard in front of him. This continued for the next couple of minutes before he turned around and nodded his head. Seems like it. As of right now, there is no connection between the chip and any external source, so I can tell you that no one is tracking you. That's good. Crossing my legs, I started to ponder to myself. If Ryan can tell exactly when the connection between the tracking software and the chip is on, then this allows me to know when exactly the hunt for me will start. This is good. At least this way I won't be ambushed out of anywhere. The moment my bounty was put out, I knew that I could no longer stay in the human domain. I had to leave. With my current strength and abilities, I could no longer stay here. It was time for me to start focusing on myself. Originally I had thought about returning to where I was before, helping Kevin and the others just like before. But my experience at the monolith made me change my mind. I realized that my mentality was wrong. All I was doing was merely babysitting Kevin and the others. How ironic. Kevin was the protagonist and yet I was babysitting him from behind. It became apparent to me that Kevin did not need any babysitting. Even though the plotline had changed, he was still the protagonist. He was the one with the system and amazing talent. What did I need to help him for? If he couldn't even overcome the challenges that lay ahead of him, then what was the point of him being the protagonist? I was not his babysitter, nor was he someone that needed to be under my watch. It was time to abandon that mentality and focus on myself. I needed to become strong. Stronger. Strong enough so that the likes of the Union and the monolith could no longer oppress me. As my thoughts paused there, lifting my head up and staring at Small Snake, I resolutely stood up. Small Snake, start making preparations. Preparations? Walking towards the entrance of the room, I nodded my head. Yup, we're going on a long trip. End of Volume 2/Part -1. Chapter 285, Before the Journey 1. What the fuck are you guys even thinking? An enraged shout echoed inside of simple office space. Following this, pounding violently on a wooden desk, Monica glared towards the person sitting behind the desk. Daphne, just what went through your heads when you decided to sacrifice the person that has single-handedly saved me, Amon, and the others? Monica once again shouted. She was beyond incensed. Upon being notified by Donna about the bounty on Ren's head, Monica flew into a fit of rage and immediately went towards Daphne's office to get an explanation from her. Tell me so that I can understand. Calm down, Monica. Daphne helplessly raised her hand to calm Monica down. Calm down my ass. How can I be calm in this situation? Just listen to what I have to say. Daphne pleaded. Without saying anything, Monica stared at Daphne's eyes for a couple of seconds. Fine. Crossing her arms, Monica sat down on the seat opposite Daphne and gestured for her to explain. I really want to know what crossed your minds when you made that decision. Where should I begin? Pondering for a moment, Daphne decided to relay to Monica about everything that went through that meeting. From how they decided to sign a truce, to how they decided to sacrifice 876 for the truce in order to give her and Amon enough time to recuperate. The more Monica listened to Daphne, the tighter her brows knit. This is *T. Eventually, after a while, she stood up and once again smacked the table. Do you guys not realize that you've wasted a golden opportunity? A golden opportunity? Yes. Monica cried out. Since they are the ones that proposed the truce, it obviously means that whatever the explosion did, they suffered major losses. If there is a perfect chance to fight back, it is now. Deal a devastating blow to both those demon bastards and the monolith. Though Monica wasn't able to fully witness the core explode as she had already left by the time it exploded, what she did witness was the pure destructive power that emanated from the core itself. It was frightening. There was no way that they came unscathed from that attack. Listening to Monica's words, Daphne shook her head. If only it was that easy, Monica. What do you mean? Do you think we don't know about what you've said? We've also thought about attacking them, but there are a couple of problems. What problems? Monica's face showed obvious signs of distrust. Not minding this, Daphne explained. For one, we don't actually know the extent of the injuries from the monolith side. For all we know, the truce could be a trap proposed by them to make us think that they are severely weakened. If it truly was that way and we attack, we'd suffer massive losses. For the monolith to be the first one to step back, the Union heads were not naive enough to believe that the monolith was just openly displaying their weakness. There was a high chance that they were trying to instigate the Union into attacking them. If that is also not enough of a reason, Malik al-Shaytan alone is enough. Deep apprehension flashed across Daphne's eyes. Recalling him back at the meeting, although she knew that it was just his clone there, his presence was no joke. He was in his own league. Malik al-Shaytan? The head of the monolith. Listening to Daphne's words, Monica's brows knit. Him. What about him? Shaking her head, Daphne sighed.
Ha!
You weren't there, Monica, but the moment he stepped into the room, all of us could tell one thing. Lifting her head and looking at Monica straight in the eyes, Daphne took a deep breath before continuing. It was that he was on another level. Another level? With deep apprehension in her eyes, Daphne explained. Yes. After the meeting ended, Octavius himself confirmed it. He was weaker than him. TSSS. Monica inhaled a breath of cold air. For someone as prideful as Octavius to say such a thing, it meant that it was true. Are you serious? Yes. That is why we were hesitant on attacking them. Furthermore, with the demons behind them, the war would only end up being our loss. But... Daphne cut Monica off. Monica, what is done is done. Even though I have voted against the decision, the other heads all unanimously voted for 876 to be eliminated. In the end, he wasn't worth the sacrifice. At the end of the day, 876 did not show them enough promise to make them go to war with the monolith for his sake. Had he been an unrivaled talent or a high ranker, they may have done something, but in the end, 876 was a measly rank. Something that was not worth mentioning by the likes of them. Ranked heroes. No, it's because I know who 876 is that I'm saying this. Listening to Daphne, Monica cried out inside of her heart. If Rin was truly 876, Monica knew that if he really held a grudge against them, things wouldn't really turn out as simple as they think. If Rin grew as she expected him to, then the monolith would be the last thing the Union should worry about. God, I hope things don't escalate to that extent. Biting her lips, Monica inwardly prayed inside of her heart. If things went that way, Monica wasn't sure whose side she would pick. Inside of a dark room, an old man with a long gray beard and turbid gray eyes sat crossed legs. The air around him distorted from time to time. Schwa! Disrupting the silence and appearing from out of thin air, was an elegant young man with long black hair and ruby red eyes. Standing up, the old man greeted. "Leader, you have returned." "MHM." Giving Imogenhao a casual nod, the man who just entered, Malik al-Shaitan, casually swept the room with his eyes before raising his hand and swiping right. At his casual gesture, a black void suddenly appeared out of thin air. Then, after a couple of seconds, a cold and indifferent voice that seemed to come from the deepest parts of hell rang out from the void. "Are you done? Have they fallen for it?" "Unfortunately not," curtly replied Malik al-Shaitan. "The Union accepted our truce agreement." "A pity." A trace of disappointment could be felt from the voice behind the void. Lowering his body slightly, Malik al-Shaitan asked. "Your Royal Highness, is there anything you would like for me to do?" "No, that is it for now. Make sure you don't get into any conflicts for at least a couple of years. Your recent failure has caused quite a few problems for me." Thick killing intent could be felt from the words of the individual whom Malik al-Shaitan referred to as your Royal Highness. Imogenhao and Malik al-Shaitan, who were in the same room, could feel this, as the void before them twisted strangely, and a tangible wave of bloodlust swept over them. Lowering his head slightly, Malik al-Shaitan replied. "I apologize for the mishap. It's good that you understand. For now, do as I said and lay low." "Understood." "Good, I hope you don't disappoint me once again." The voice slowly drifted in the room before completely disappearing. Once the voice completely disappeared and the void before them shrank, after a brief moment of silence, the first to speak was Imogenhao. "Leader, what do we do now?" Malik al-Shaitan indifferently gazed at the place where the black void used to be and coldly replied. "We do as the demons have ordered, and lay low for now." At the moment, the demons were at war with the three races. The incident where multiple ranks and below died resulted in a lot of the demons getting injured. This in turn caused the demons to suffer a major loss, as one of their forces abruptly weakened out of nowhere. It was because of this that he was forced to propose a truce to the Union. Not because they were weak, but because the demons couldn't afford to have more of their members get injured. Malik al-Shaitan had originally hoped that the Union would be hot-blooded and directly take their truce as a sign of weakness and have them attack the monolith. This would have been the perfect chance to ambush them and get rid of them. Unfortunately, they did not bite the hook. "A pity." Malik al-Shaitan shook his head in disappointment. Glancing towards Imogenhao next to him, Malik al-Shaitan asked. "Imogenhao, how are your injuries?" "My injuries?" "MHM." Pondering for a bit, Imogenhao replied. "I've already taken a couple of high-leveled potions, they are not that severe right now. If the Union had gone and attacked us, we could have done a quick work of them. The Union was truly lucky in deciding to agree to the truce. Had they not agreed, the only outcome for them was their imminent destruction. With both Imogenhao and Tacitus's injuries not being that serious anymore, they could have easily have been able to overpower the 5 heads of the Union without suffering any major losses. It was truly a pity." "I see." Malik al-Shaitan's red eyes flashed before he turned around and left. Staring at his expressionless face from behind, and Mo Jinhao had no idea about what he was thinking. 2 p.m. Kaisa headquarters. Sitting on a large desk, I flipped through some files. After a while, I looked up toward Small Snake, who was sitting opposite me, and asked, "Small Snake, how much money do we have saved up?" Without taking his eyes off of the papers in front of him, Small Snake replied, "Around 10 million, why?" 10 million? Since when did we have so much money? This amount honestly surprised me. I had originally thought that there would have been less. You think we've been idle these 8 months that you were gone? Small Snake rolled his eyes. Let's exclude Angelica, who did pretty much all of the major tasks, but I've been using the information that you had given to me before to make quite a bit of money. Information? I tilted my head in confusion. Yup, the one you told me regarding where to invest and stuff. That. Then it finally dawned on me. I had in fact given Small Snake a list of companies that would rise in stock in the future, but I had long forgotten about that. To be honest, this was mainly due to the fact that I no longer relied on the plotline like before. Realizing that too many things were changing, I stopped relying on those things. Fair enough. Crossing my arms, I tapped on my bracelet and threw something in Small Snake's direction. Here. Whoa. Catching the object I threw at him with both hands, Small Snake looked at it and asked, "What is this?" "It's an advanced potion, sell it and give me the money." The 10 million you saved included. Small Snake's eyes widened in surprise. Wait, hold on. Did you just say Adva? That's not all, I want you to sell this stuff too. Cutting Small Snake off, one by one, I threw item after item towards him, who carefully caught them as though they were precious treasures. Wait, what is all of this stuff and what do you need that money for? Throwing a disgusted look on Small Snake's face, I pointed at my face. What do you think? Have you seen my face? Aren't those just regular scars? Can't you just take a normal potion? Nope, that's why I'm telling you to go sell it. Only an extremely potent potion can cure my face. Had Melissa's potion been enough, I would have used it as soon as I got out of the monolith. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Still, its value was well within 40 million U. Other than that, I had a lot of useless stuff that I had gotten from the guards I had killed from the monolith. Especially, Luther, he had quite a lot of good things on him. Including a couple of advanced potions. All in all, it was raining money, and my face was soon going to be fixed. Staring at Small Snake, I reassured. Don't worry, Small Snake, I'm not going to spend all of the money on fixing my face. I've got other things to buy. Like a lot of things. Potions, food supplies, water, clothes, and essentially everything one would need during a long excursion. I needed the money to buy a lot of stuff for the upcoming trip. It was going to be a long trip. Making ample preparations was a must, especially since I was running out of time. Okay, but can you at least tell me what you are planning on? Later. I'll explain it when the others are here as well. Others? Yup, everyone is going. Huh? Yup. That's right, you too, Small Snake. Me? What? A startled look appeared on Small Snake's face. Wait, why are you bringing me? You do know that I'm practically useless in combat or anything related to that, right?
Yeah.
Then why are you bringing me? Because it's never too late to start. Small Snake was a genius. Maybe it was because of his low self-esteem or something like that, but Small Snake was not fully aware of his brilliance. The intention in bringing him to this trip was so that I could train him to fit with the squad. Once he truly realized how brilliant he was, the power of our mercenary group would drastically rise. Ah, right, Small Snake, I'm leaving you with the task of convincing Ryan's mom and Ava to come with me on the trip. What? I know what you're going to say, but just make it work. With the trip being a long one, though it was filled with danger, it was also filled with opportunities. This was why I wanted everyone to come with me. There were a couple of obstacles though. One was Ryan, whose mother I needed permission from, and Ava, who was still at the lock. But to be honest, Ava was better off following me. At the lock, she would have never been able to show the full potential of her power. She needed real experience, and the journey I was about to embark on was the perfect opportunity for her. In fact, not just for her, but everyone that was here, Small Snake included. It wasn't just me that needed to get stronger, it was them as well. Damn you, seriously. Deciding everything by yourself without caring about my input. Small Snake shot a glare in my direction. To that, I merely shrugged. You're the one who decided to follow me. Been regretting that decision for a while. Also, why are you making me work so much as soon as I come back? You're my right-hand man, Small Snake. I didn't choose you for nothing. Speechless, Small Snake weakly waved his hand before turning around.
Ha!
Fine, I'll do it. Aha, knew I could count on you. Haze. Just as he was about to leave, Small Snake's footsteps halted. Turning around, he asked. By the way, Rin, meaning to ask, what are you planning on doing right after you fix your face? From the looks of it, you're planning on doing something. At Small Snake's question, the smile on my face disappeared. Then, leaning back on my chair and staring at the ceiling of the room for a couple of seconds, I softly muttered. What else am I gonna do? I'm going to meet my family. End of Volume 2/Part-2. Chapter 286, Before the Journey, 2. The next day. You work pretty quickly. Opening the box that sat on the desk in front of me, I carefully picked up a small potion that was nestled in between a few wrappers. 98 million U. That was how much money I spent on the potion. Just thinking about the price made my face cringe, but I didn't regret my decision. Holding onto the potion as though it was the biggest treasure in the world, I made my way towards the bathroom and closed the door behind me. Phew, it's about time I got rid of this look. With both hands on the side of the sink, staring at myself in the mirror, and once again looking at my hideous face, I took a deep breath. Then, uncapping the potion, without wasting any second, I quickly downed it. Gulp. Within seconds of me downing the potion, a gentle and warm current flowed through the veins of my body. Opening my eyes, I could vividly see the burns on my face healing at an alarming rate. In 5 minutes, much to my surprise, all of the burns on my face started disappearing. Then, once all of my burns disappeared, it was the scars' turn. This process took a bit longer, as the poison on my face had penetrated quite deeply. With thick green lines appearing on my face, I felt a strange wiggling sensation crawling all over my face. Lifting my head up and looking at myself in the mirror, I could see the strange worm-like lines wiggling all over my face as though they were alive. It looked absolutely hideous. Fortunately, this did not last for long as the lines shrank with each passing second. This continued for a couple of more minutes before all of the green lines disappeared from my face. Following the green lines were the scars, and once they too were gone, what was left was a soft white skin devoid of any imperfections. Is this how I look like? Staring at my reflection in the mirror, my fingers trembled slightly as I caressed the mirror in front of me. Hi. Biting my lips, I tried my best to remain composed. But it was honestly hard. This was the first time I had seen my face in 8 months, and the moment the scars from my face disappeared, it finally dawned on me. I was free. I was finally free from the horrible nightmare that I experienced at the monolith. Although I still had a chip inside of my head, at least, for now, I could take matters into my own hands. After a while, scratching the scalp of my head and taking another potion, I muttered to myself. I should probably do something about this too. Gulp. Uncapping the lid of the potion, I quickly downed the potion. Instantly, the moment I took my first sip of the potion, the hair on my head started to grow. Soon, they grew to the same length as it was before back when I was at the lock. Better. In this world, if there was a bald person, it was because they chose to be bald. There was no such a thing as balding now. All it took me was a simple potion, and my hair was back to where it was back then. Brushing my hair to the side, and staring at myself in the mirror for a couple of minutes, I took a deep breath. Then, turning around, I opened the door of the bathroom and went out. Small snake, I'm heading out. I'll see you in a bit. Taking my coat and putting on a skin mask, I made my way out of the building. As soon as I fixed my face, without letting anyone else see my face, the first thing I did was visit my family. I really missed them. At the same time, in a different place. Your lordship, please feel free to tell me if you need anything. I will try my best to assist you with anything. Inside of a mortuary that was filled with corpses, a middle-aged plump man looked towards his right and nervously rubbed his hands together. Beads of sweat dripped down from his forehead as he stared at a black humanoid creature that was beside him. With 2 horns on his head and deep red eyes that exuded boundless bloodlust, the black humanoid creature indifferently stared at the many corpses presented before him. Have you found your contractee, your lordship? The plump man asked. I have. Opening his mouth, a chilly voice escaped from the humanoid creature's mouth. Then, moving towards a certain body, the humanoid creature bent down. Turning towards the plump man, the black humanoid creature asked. What is the cause of this youth's death? This youth? Lowering his head and staring at a handsome youth whose face was now incomparably pale, the plump man started pondering. Then, after a while, he pointed towards many different areas on the youth's body. Just take a look at the bruises on the youth's body. Before death, we can tell that he has gone through a tough fight with someone. Perhaps they may have both been on equal footing, but... Pausing, the plump man suddenly bent down and pointed towards the chest area of the youth. If you look closely, the real cause of death for the youth is a clean strike to the heart. Honestly, judging from how clean the strike was, it can be inferred that whoever did this in an extremely fast and precise manner. So fast that your lordship? Startling the plump man out of his thoughts was the black humanoid creature. Tracing his finger over the hole on the youth's chest, the black humanoid creature's body started trembling slightly. Then, the corner of his mouth sadistically twisted upwards. Why, your lordship? Noticing the demon's weird behavior, the middle-aged man called out. Then, out of nowhere, the middle-aged man felt chills run down his spine as a small chuckle echoed across the room. Coo. The chuckle soon turned to a raspy laugh that sounded from the deeps of hell. So you are still alive, ha. In a highly decorated lobby where people could be seen walking around everywhere, a middle-aged man walked up towards a certain desk that had the sign "Reception" engraved by the side. Stopping in front of the reception, the middle-aged man looked towards a young girl and asked. Excuse me, what should I do if I want to join this place? Excuse me? Did you say that you wanted to join? The receptionist smiled kindly. That is correct. The middle-aged man replied. At his response, the secretary looked at the computer screen in front of her. Then, pressing onto a couple of keys, she asked. All right, so you wish to apply to our guild, okay? Let's start with a simple question. what is your rank? D+. The middle-aged man replied without hesitation. D+ rank, I see. Wait, what? It took a while for the secretary to process the information, and when she did, dropping everything she was doing, she jumped out of her seat and stared at the man before her wide-eyed. Why, you're telling me that your rank is MHM. Nodding his head, the middle-aged man released a wisp of his aura. My God. Feeling the terrifying aura exuding from the middle-aged man, the secretary cried out in surprise. It's true, you're really rank. Staring at the man before her, the secretary was terrified. That was because the guild master of the guild she was working for was not as strong as the man before her. This man was a big shot. Recovering from her stupor, the secretary hastily grabbed the phone that was next to her and looked at the middle-aged man with pleading eyes. Please wait a moment while I call the higher-ups. Sure, take your time. The middle-aged man replied with a kind smile on his face. His kind and patient attitude made the secretary sigh in relief as she nervously waited for the phone to pick up. Soon, someone picked up, and the secretary started to speak to them. Yes, rank, MHM, yes. Talking on the phone for a good minute, the secretary soon hung up the phone and gestured. Please follow me, the guild master would like to meet you. Understood. The middle-aged man obliged and followed the receptionist. As they were walking, halting her footsteps, the secretary turned around and asked. By the way, have you already handed in your dimensional storage to the security? Yes, I have. Good. Checking her watch to double-check with the security at the entrance, once she got the okay, she directly brought him to the elevator. Stepping onto the elevator and pressing onto the highest floor, the secretary turned to look at the middle-aged man. By the way, I forgot to ask, but what is your name? My name? Yes. Pondering for a short second, the middle-aged man responded. Ren, my name is Ren Wright. Ren Wright? The receptionist once again asked. MHM. I see, well, Mr. Wright, right now I will be bringing you to the guild master's office. As you are a highly distinguished guest, he will negotiate with you directly. Is that okay, with you? That's perfectly fine. Perfect. Before long, the doors of the elevator opened up and the receptionist brought Ren to the guild master's office. Arriving in front of a large wooded door that had a small sign with the words Ronald Dover engraved by the side, the secretary halted her footsteps. Turning around, she politely said, This is as far as I can go. I hope you have a pleasant discussion. You may go in. Thank you. Lowering his head slightly and thanking the receptionist, Ren opened the door. The moment he opened the door, the first thing he saw were two individuals. Sitting behind a large wooden desk was a tall man with black hair and a masculine jawline. Though he couldn't have been considered the most handsome, he was fairly handsome in his own right. Standing next to him was a stunning woman with golden hair and blue eyes. Both of them looked haggard as dark circles appeared beneath their eyes. Even then, staring at Ren who had just entered the room, they stood up and put on friendly smiles. You must be the distinguished guest that wishes to join us. Please have a seat. Thank you. Turning around and spotting a red sofa, Ren calmly walked towards it and sat down. Then, crossing his legs and extending his hand over the top of the couch, Ren suddenly waved his hand, startling the couple. What are you doing? Ronald Dover stood up and put his wife behind him. Staring at the barrier that was forming around them, with his hand on his desk, he was prepared to call the security that was waiting outside. Calm down, I'm not trying to hurt you. Tell me, what is your purpose? Ronald Dover shouted. Before you do anything, please listen to what I have to say. With a smile on his face, Ren nonchalantly put his hand on his face. Then, grabbing onto his face, the couple watched as Ren's face distorted. Before long, a familiar face appeared in their vision, causing the mind of both of them to blank out. Don't tell me you guys can't even recognize your own son? At his words, for a good minute, heavy silence enveloped the room. After a while, the first one to speak was Ronald Dover, who with a trembling finger pointed in Ren's direction. With a croaky voice filled with disbelief and confusion, he repeatedly stuttered.
Ha!
I'm possible. Ren? Next to him, his wife was in a similar state of confusion as she couldn't mutter any words. Slowly the side of her eyes began to water, and tears started streaming down her cheeks. Staring at the couple, Ren bit his lips and forced a smile. Aren't you guys gonna say anything? My boy. The moment Ren spoke, both parents quickly rushed towards him and embraced him tightly. Ren. My son. Feeling the warm embrace of his parents, biting his lips and staring towards the ceiling with reddened eyes, Ren muttered softly. Mom, Dad, I'm back. End of Volume 2/Part-3. Chapter 287, Before the Journey, 3. Ren, where have you been? I thought. Staring at my mother who was choking on her words, I felt a slight pang in my heart. Scooting over to her side and caressing her back, I reassured her that everything was all right. I know, but don't worry. Everything is over, I'm here. Sniff, sniff, okay. Nodding her head weakly, my mother eventually calmed down. After a while, wiping the tears in the corner of her eyes, she asked. Ren, what are you going to do now? Now that you're back, will you go back to the academy? With a smile on my face, I shook my head. No, I'll be going away on a trip. A trip? Taken aback by my response, my mother lifted her head and asked. How long will it take? Will you be back by the end of the weekend? Closing my eyes, I once again shook my head. No, I'll be going for a bit longer than that. Longer? A week? Pursing my lips, and staring at my mother in the eyes, I responded. A couple of years. What? My mother suddenly stood up in shock. With her eyes wide open, she shouted. You just came back and you're already leaving? What do you think you're doing? Don't you care about how we feel? It's because I care about you that I have to go. I inwardly muttered to myself, but never actually said those words out loud. I didn't want to let my parents know about the chip and the bounty on my head. If they heard about it, I wouldn't even want to imagine how they'd react. Therefore, lowering my head and clenching my fists, I resolutely replied. Mom, Dad, although I know I have been gone for the past 8 months, I really wish you let me go. I need to go on this trip. I needed to become stronger. This trip was the key to achieving that. Throughout my whole life in this new world, I realized how flawed this world I created was. Everything in this world revolved around backing and power, and without it, you were nothing. I understood this clearly. Even then, I couldn't stand that. Never again did I want to feel so helpless. Never again did I wish to go through a similar situation as before. This was why this trip was necessary. I needed to change myself, and become more ruthless and decisive. I still lacked a lot of experience, and my mind was still too immature for this world. If I truly wanted to survive in this world, and defeat the Demon King, this was the only path I could take. No, Ren, I can't dash. Despite my words, my mother still shook her head. However, right before she was about to disagree, my father put his hand on her shoulder and said, Let him. Ronald. My mother looked at my father in shock. Are you really going to let him go like this? Right after he only just came back to us? Looking back at my mom, Ronald shook his head and pointed at me. Just look at him. He's already made up his mind. There is no changing his decision. But just leave him be. He's already an adult, we can't do anything about his decision. Lifting my head up, I gratefully looked at my dad. Thank you. But I hope you promise me one thing. Tell me. With a calm smile on my face, my dad said. I hope you stay safe and don't put yourself into too much danger. We already lost you once, we can't afford to lose you again. Promise me that you won't get hurt again. Those words. They reminded me of an old promise I made. One that I couldn't keep. Lowering my head, I softly replied. I will try. Staring at me for a couple of seconds, a calm smile appeared on my father's face as he said. That's good enough. Once my father's words faded away, a gloomy atmosphere shrouded the room. Uncomfortable with this atmosphere, trying to lighten it up, I decided to switch topics. By the way, where is Nola? Is she in preschool? Nola? She's in preschool, she should be out in about an hour. My mother replied. An hour? Checking his watch, my father suggested. If you have time, do you want to go pick her up? Can I? My eyes lit up. I really missed Nola. Checking her schedule, my mother replied.
Yeah.
Amanda is too busy today, so it was supposed to be my turn to pick her up. But since you're here, why don't you go pick her up? Yes, that's soon. Abruptly stopping myself mid-sentence, I looked at my mother in shock. Wait, hold on, did you just say Amanda? Did I perhaps mishear? Or was it a different Amanda? Ah, that's right, you still don't know. My mother's eyes suddenly lit up. It was then that my mother started speaking about how she met Amanda, and how helpful she had been. From how she would always pick Nola up whenever they were busy, to how she would drop by at their house from time to play and eat dinner with them. Listening to my mom excitedly talk about Amanda, millions of questions emerged in my mind. In the end, I could voice them out, as a weird feeling rushed over me. It was a hard one to describe. But it wasn't an unpleasant one. Disrupting me out of my thoughts was once again my mother as she suddenly asked. Say Ren, why haven't you ever told me that you knew such a beautiful girl? Mom? Looking at my mom and staring at me with shining in her eyes, I scooted a bit further away from her. The pressure that she was exuding was a bit frightening at the moment. Leaning over, she asked. Are you really only just classmates?
Yeah.
I awkwardly replied. Though I interacted with Amanda from time to time, I don't ever recall our relationship being anything more than that of friends. Really? My mother squinted her eyes and gave me a skeptical look.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on between us. I think she just likes Nola. No one could withstand Nola's charm, especially Amanda who liked cute things. This was probably why. If you say so. Though skeptical, my mom no longer asked any questions about my relationship with Amanda. Then, for the next hour or so, I caught up with my parents. Although my parents did try to ask me multiple times where I had been during these past 8 months, I promptly dodged those questions. After a while, they both got the hint and stopped asking. After that, we chatted about many different things, and through this conversation, my mind, for a very long time, finally relaxed. At exactly 4:30 p.m., covering her mouth with her hand, my mother pushed my back. Oh dear, I think it's almost time for Nola to finish preschool, you better hurry now. Now? Okay. Standing up from the sofa, I turned around and embraced both of my parents one last time before leaving the room. Before I left, I made sure to look at my parents one more time. Once again, I resolved myself to become stronger. Stronger for my sake and their sake. Asterisk. 5 p.m. Standing in front of a large building, I muttered. This should be the place. Though I had only been here once, I was sure that this was the location of Nola's preschool. Besides me, I could see a lot of parents similarly waiting for their children to go out. Staring at the building in front of me, I could see cute pictures and paintings hanging outside the windows of the building. Whilst waiting for Nola to go out, I carefully touched my face. Currently, I was wearing a skin mask. For obvious reasons, I couldn't just go meet Nola with my face. Although most people may have forgotten who I was, there was a chance that someone could have recognized me. After all, I did appear on national television. I couldn't let this happen, as that would put my family in a lot of danger. Thus, I could only do this in a roundabout way. Ring. Before long, I could hear the faint sound of a bell ringing in the distance signaling the end of the preschool. Following the bell, the doors of the preschool swung open, and children ran out to their parents. Hoo! Staring at the children that were happily running towards their parents, taking a deep breath, and fixing my clothes, I moved towards the entrance of the kindergarten. Approaching the care lady, who was an older lady that seemed to be in her 60s, with a kind smile on my face I spoke up. Excuse me, I'm here to pick up Nola Dover. I'm sure you guys have already been informed about my arrival? Prior to arriving here, I had my parents inform them of my arrival. If they didn't do that, the preschool would have never allowed me to see Nola. Lowering her head slightly, the care lady stepped aside and entered the building. Yes, I've been informed about you. Please come in. Thank you. Lowering my head as well, I followed the care lady into the building. Entering the building, we soon arrived before a small classroom where multiple children could be seen playing amongst themselves. Scanning the room, I soon spotted Nola in the distance. Ah! The moment I spotted Nola, my heart started to hurt as only a small inaudible sound escaped from my mouth. Sitting in the corner of the room, I could see Nola playing with a toy car by herself. Her small little figure playing with the toy car by herself made the corner of my ears involuntarily redden as I had to forcefully bite the corner of my lips in order to remain composed. Nola, someone is here to pick you up. The care lady called out. At the care lady's words, Nola slowly turned her head. Once she turned her head and saw me, a trace of disappointment flashed across the little girl's eyes as she stood up and walked in my direction. Though Nola was disappointed that her parents were not here, she didn't show it on her face as she greeted me politely with a small blow. Nice to meet you, uncle, my name is Nola. Squatting down towards Nola's eyes level, I said. Nola? What a beautiful name, it's nice to meet you, my name is Kevin Voss, and I'm here to pick you up. Uncle Kevin? Nola muttered, resulting in the smile on my face deepening. That's right, I will bring you to your parents now. Grabbing Nola by the hand, and thanking the care lady, I soon walked her towards a black car. Opening the door of the car, I helped Nola put on her seatbelt before closing the door and entering the front side of the car. Once I sat in the car, putting both of my hands on the wheel of the car, I checked the rearview mirror. Uncle Kevin, how come Mom and Dad cannot come? Nola suddenly asked. Smiling, I replied. Because they are busy with work. Fortunately, I was not. Are you strong? Strong? I'm very strong, stupid too. Uncle is stupid? Yes. Unfortunately, anyone with my name is stupid. Oh. Nola nodded her head in understanding. Laughing on the inside, I decided to stop tarnishing Kevin's name. Removing the mask off of my face, with a smile on my face, I turned around and faced Nola. With my regular voice, I asked. So tell me, Nola, would you rather go home or grab some candies with me? Candies. Hearing my regular voice, Nola subconsciously responded. Then, looking up in confusion, her eyes met mine. BB, water? MHM. Pita. Pita. The sound of tears falling towards the bottom of the car suddenly echoed out loud as Nola's eyes became extremely watery. Then, taking off her seatbelt, Nola jumped towards my arms and cried. Bwooter.
Wah, wah.
Embracing Nola in my arms, I could feel her tears dampen my clothes, but I didn't care. Caressing her by the head, holding back my tears, I muttered. Nola, brother is back. So tell me if you want to go buy candies. Brother will buy it for you. End of Volume 2, Part 4/5.